Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Juliana. Today I want to give you a review about this little book right here, The King and the Christmas Tree. The King and the Christmas Tree by A.N. Wilson and illustrated by Alexis Bruchon or Bruchon. So we are talking about the Second World War, and we are talking about United Kingdom and Norway, and what the King and the Christmas Tree have to do with this, and why this author took the time to write this book, right? So it has here a little, I don't know if this is a blurb or something, but it's kind of a true story of courage, kindness, and a wartime friendship. So, Norway at the time of the Second World War didn't position itself, so it was a neutral country, but surrounding, well, it's right here, 8 and 9 of April of 1940, sirens sounded in Oslo, the capital of the neutral country Norway. Many of those who heard the sirens wailing believed it was a simple practice alarm. The morning newspapers brought a different story. So this was the beginning of almost obligatory positioning of Norway during the war, because the United Kingdom had put like bombs surrounding the coast of Norway, because Norway is fertile in minerals that of course are also used in wartime, and so it was a target for Germany and also an advantage for the Allies. But in somewhat a precaution, prevention movement, the bombs were put there, and they were seen as a threat by the Germans or the regime in Germany at the time. Although Norway was neutral, it ended up being invaded by the Germans, and at the time it was a bit of a confusion for the government, and the king had to take the position of leaving the country in order not to surrender Norway. So he and his son's wife fled the country. His daughter-in-law and his grandchildren went to North America, and they stayed with President Roosevelt. They were friends, and they became even closer during that period. And father and son, so the king and the prince, went north in Norway still, and they would try to communicate with the population, giving messages for that Norway was not surrendering, and eventually they ended up in London, where they were like exiled in a way. But at the same time, during the invasion of the Germans, the King of Norway never officialized that Norway was taken or was subjected by the Germans. No, he prevailed, saying that he was the King of Norway, and Norway was an independent country that wasn't taken by the German regime. Then, where in this, of course, that's so much about this whole journey that they took, because as you can see, this is a little map with a scheme with the voyage that the king and his son had to do till they went to England. So King Haakon's journey from Norway to Britain. Okay. And so the Norway had resistance movement. I think I annotated the name of the movement. Milorg, an abbreviation of a military organization. So, but in Norwegian. So the Christmas tree came along while the king and the prince were in Britain. And it was a man called Mons Orangsgav that cut down the tree on Isoy. This man was a resistance fighter, and he was taking part in a commando raid on the tiny island of Isoy. He was serving in the Norwegian Navy, and he cut down a Norwegian pine, intending it as a gift to his exiled king. It was taken on board a tanker and transported to the British Isles. And here it says, Mons Orangsgav Norwegian pine was not a sensible thing. It was, however, a palpable organic part of Norway. It had grown out of Norwegian soil and was now making its way to Norway's king, to the man who had demonstrated the unconquerable potency of not doing the sensible thing. The tree was taken to Foliogen Park, where the king was now living. Haakon, the king of Norway, approaching consultation from the British government and the Greater London Council, passed the tree to the Londoners. So it was first erected in Trafalgar Square in the middle of the war. No electric lights, there was still a blackout, but evergreen with defiant hope. So, something that, for instance, Norwegians will do in Norway was painting as illustrated by Alexis Bruchon. So the symbols which most infuriated the Nazis were the simple combination of letter and number, H7, Haakon the 7, so like this. They will paint these symbols in buildings and walls surrounding the country, and it was a manifestation of resistance. And there is a passage here that I really wanted to talk to you about. Let me see if I find it. So I can't find it right now, but it was something like, for instance, Sweden had surrendered to the Germans, and when Haakon the 7th fled the country of Norway to be exiled and make the point to not put the white flag on the window and say we surrender, he was advised by the Sweden monarchy, for instance, to do the sensible thing and surrender to the Germans. But that is where it comes from, that sentence, not to the sensible thing. So, and in Norway there was a man called Quisling that was a pro-German ideologist, shall we say, and he was trying to take power in Norway. And of course that the king and his council were well aware that he was just a pawn, and but they were threatened that threatened or more. They were being in negotiation, or well, the Germans tried to do negotiations with them, saying that they wouldn't do harm to the monarchy of Norway, but if they come to Norway and surrender the country, that they would stay as it was before. But they knew that wasn't true. And when they denied the proposal, then the threats came in, and this quisling was, as I said, the pawn that they wanted to put in the position of the king, but of course he was just a puppet. So the king of Norway would use the BBC radio to do speeches and encouragement speeches to Norwegians, and say that he, had not forgot them. And during the war, he would make a point to maintain contact with these people. And eventually, as we all know, the Allies won the war, and King Haakon came back to Norway. And of course, it was very much celebrated. And from that point on, it was the year after the king returned to Oslo when that city remembered the 1942 raid on Isoy and the gift of a Christmas tree to Haakon in his London exile. From this memory sprang a tradition that has been continued from 1947 to this day. It was in memory of that Christmas tree sent during the war to his king by a Norwegian commando that the germ of the idea grew. In the immediate aftermath of war, in austere times, it was not possible to organize, but by 1947, the year when Princess Elizabeth married Prince Philip, an event attended by King Haakon, the city of Oslo began the tradition which is maintained to this day. So, this is a very, as you can see in the cover, this is a very symbolic tradition, and I think these type of things should be explained and passed by in families and schools, and as anything in history should be passed by the elders to the upcoming generations so the memory doesn't fade. But this is at the beginning of the video I was going to do a disclaimer and say, well, if you don't know much about the history of this particular moment in time, perhaps read the book first and then come back to the video, and so you don't catch spoilers. We are talking about non-fiction, right? But I want, as the book is so short, I won't say much about the other bits and parts of the story, the history of this moment in time. I'm just going to say that there is here mission that was attempted once and it failed, and then the Norwegians were successful, and that was to do with the atomic bomb being developed by the Germans. So yeah, but the main point was to get to know this tradition that I didn't know about, for you to see, and I didn't know the history behind it, and this was, it's funny because at the beginning I thought this was fiction, the King and the Christmas Tree, and I thought this was like I don't know, a kind of cozy or somewhat Christmas story or whatever. But then I heard some people talking about it, and I understood that it wasn't quite that. So I bought it, as you can see, and it was fun. Okay, it's just a word, okay? But was really interesting to read about this tradition and how it came about and what happened and what led to this. And yeah, it makes you think, you know. So I hope we have many more years where this tradition is maintained. And I'm just going to say this, I hope we don't have to make or create similar traditions for different reasons, you know. So I'm just going to say that, and I'm going to say goodbye. I hope you have enjoyed it. This is a very short book, very interesting. Of course, if you are looking for a more in-depth and more extensive non-fiction about the Second World War, this is not the book for you, because this is very specific in a very objective theme or event, should we say. So, but nevertheless, it is a very interesting book to read. And you know, if you are trying to pick up little by little here and there information about this time, this period, you can enjoy this reading as well. So there we go. I hope you have enjoyed it. I will see you on the next one. Bye.